economist Jeffrey Sachs, I'd also say he's an activist in some way, shape, or form. He endorsed Jill Stein for president in 2024. He had the opportunity to speak at the EU Parliament. And I would say school them, go through a history lesson with them, set it to their face. And I have tremendous respect when people do this. Jeffrey Sachs went right to the source and said it to their face. You got to check this out, guys. He does not want these wars to happen. He wants the war in Ukraine to end. He doesn't like what Israel has done. He's against all of those things. Listen to what he says here.
So the NATO enlargement, as you know, started in 1999 with Hungary, Poland, and the Czech Republic. And Russia was extremely unhappy about it. But these were countries still far from the border. And Russia protested, but of course to no avail. Then George Bush Jr. came in. When 9/11 occurred, President Putin pledged all support. And then the U.S. Decided in September 20th, 2001, that it would launch 7 wars in 5 years.
Once again, who was the aggressor, right? This is not, you're not going to hear this on MSNBC or Fox News or CNN. Again, who was the aggressor? The United States. I remember when the Czech Republic was Czechoslovakia, right? And they split off.
And you can listen to General Wesley Clark online talk about that. He was NATO's supreme commander in 1999. He went to the Pentagon on September 20th, 2001. He was handed the paper explaining 7 wars. These, by the way, were Netanyahu's wars. The idea was partly to clean up old Soviet allies and partly to take out supporters of Hamas and Hezbollah.
Netanyahu's wars. Does everybody see who's been running the show now? And we were talking about this one time before. 7 wars that were Netanyahu's wars that were launched by the United States. Again, who has been the aggressor? Take him to school, Jeff.
Because Netanyahu's idea was there will be one state, thank you, only one state. It will be Israel. Israel will control all of the territory. And anyone that objects, we will overthrow. Not we exactly, our friend, the United States. That's U.S. policy until this morning. We don't know whether it will change. Now, the only wrinkle is that maybe the U.S. will own Gaza instead of Israel owning Gaza. But the idea has been around at least for 25 years. It actually goes back to a document called Clean Break that Netanyahu and his American political team put together in 1996 to end the idea of the two-state solution.
That part right there. Let's take a quick look at that document so you can see what that looks like, because this is the part where I think a lot of people are not aware of that clean break strategy. We're just going to highlight a couple of things here. The contents right here. The introduction specifically proposes 3 new policies rather than pursuing a comprehensive peace with the entire Arab world. Israel should work jointly with Jordan and Turkey to contain, destabilize, and roll back those entities that are threats to all 3. 2, changing the nature of relations with the Palestinians, specifically reserving the right of hot pursuit anywhere within Palestinian territory, as well as attempting to promote alternatives to Arafat's leadership. And 3, changing relations with the United States, stressing self-reliance and strategic cooperation. This can only be done if Israel takes serious steps to terminate aid, which prevents economic reform. Okay, I want to show everybody that. And now let's go back to what Jeffrey Sachs was saying. As we told you before, this was all planned.
You can also find it online. So these are projects. These are long-term events. These aren't, is it Clinton? Is it Bush? Is it Obama? That's the boring way to look at American politics, as the day-to-day game. But that's not what American politics is. As you know, Viktor Yanukovych was elected in 2010 on the platform of neutrality. Russia had no territorial interests or designs in Ukraine at all. I know. I was there during these years.
That part. Look at the expression on this gentleman's face right next to him. This is Michael Von Deer. Look at the expression on his face. He was there. He was there. So are people going to call Jeffrey Sachs a Putin puppet too? Someone who was there. What have we been telling you guys for so long? Bernie Sanders is out there right now acting like full-blown neocon, mad and telling people, no, we can't end the war in Ukraine. What the fuck is wrong with you? They don't want you to know the truth. This is crazy. It's insane. But you have someone who was actually there.
What Russia was negotiating was a 25-year lease to 2042 for Sevastopol Naval Base. That's it. Not for Crimea, not for the Donbass, nothing like that. This idea that Putin is reconstructing the Russian Empire, this is childish propaganda. Excuse me. If anyone knows the day-to-day and year-to-year history, this is childish stuff. Childish stuff seems to work better than adult stuff. So no designs at all. The United States decided this man must be overthrown. It's called a regime change operation. Yep. There have been about 100 of them by the United States, many in your countries and many all over the world. That's what the CIA does for a living. Okay? Please know it. It's a very unusual kind of foreign policy. But in America, if you don't like the other side, you don't negotiate with them, you try to overthrow them.
That's what we've been doing for years. Gaddafi, right? We can go through a list of another ones. You can disagree and dislike people like Saddam Hussein. You can disagree and dislike people like Gaddafi, but you do not have the right to overthrow a leader of another country. And the US government has been doing that, and it destabilizes those countries. This has been going on for years. And you have all these people, again, we talked about propaganda. All these people have been propagandized that you have to get out there and support Ukraine, and Russia is such this evil, evil country. A lot of people are just, I don't want to say brainwashed, but they're misled and misinformed. And the reality is, pay attention. The media, they're the ones that lead this. If you're talking about war or you're talking about conflict, why is the media only interviewing one side of that conflict? Why does people like Tucker Carlson have to go to Russia to get Vladimir Putin's side of that conflict? Why isn't corporate media talking to both sides? Why are they only talking to Zelensky? These are things you want to pay attention to.
Preferably covertly. If it doesn't work covertly, you do it overtly. You always say it's not our fault. They're the aggressor. They're the other side. They're Hitler. That comes up every 2 or 3 years. Whether it's Saddam Hussein, whether it's Assad, whether it's Putin, that's very convenient. That's the only foreign policy explanation the American people are ever given anywhere. Well, we're facing Munich 1938. Well, we're facing Munich 1938. Can't talk to the other side. They're evil, implacable foes. That's the only model of foreign policy we ever hear from our mass media. And the mass media repeats it entirely because it's completely suborned by the US government. I begged the Ukrainians, and I had a track record with the Ukrainians. I advised the Ukrainians. I'm not anti-Ukrainian, I'm pro-Ukrainian completely. I said, save your lives, save your sovereignty, save your territory, be neutral. Don't listen to the Americans. I repeated to them the famous adage of Henry Kissinger, that to be an enemy of the United States is dangerous, but to be a friend is fatal. Okay, so let me repeat that for Europe. To be an enemy of the United States is dangerous, but to be a friend is fatal.
Oh, God. Words to live by. You really don't want to get in that type of proximity with the United States government, because once you are a friend with the United States, then you pretty much have to follow what the US does. And the moment you try not to, oh, we're just going to throw sanctions on you too. That's why all these other countries, it's like all these other countries that some of them probably wanted to withhold arms from Israel, but the reality is they're up under the thumb of the United States. And no one really wants to step out there like that. Oh, we're friends, we're buddies, we got this agreement. Saudi Arabia is supposed to be friends with the United States. And like they also, want to look at BRICS as well. They also want to, try to do deals with Russia and China and all these other countries too. And it's like the US government's like, no, you belong to us. Not a country you want to get close to.
Trump does not want the losing hand. This is why it is more likely than not this war will end, because Trump and President Putin will agree to end the war. If Europe does all its great warmongering, it doesn't matter. The war is ending. So get it out of your system. Please tell your colleagues. It's over.
There it is.
And it's over because Trump doesn't want to carry a loser. That's it. It's not some great morality. He doesn't want to carry a loser. This is a loser. The one that will be saved by the negotiations taking place right now is Ukraine. Second is Europe. Your stock market's rising in recent days by the horrible news of negotiations. I know this has been met with the sheer horror in these chambers, but this is the best news that you could get. Now, I encouraged, they don't listen to me, but I tried to reach out to some of the European leaders. Most don't want to hear anything from me at all. But I said, don't go to Kiev. Go to Moscow. Discuss with your counterparts. Are you kidding? You're Europe. You're 450 million people. You're $20 trillion economy. You should be the main economic trading partner of Russia. It's natural links. By the way, if anyone would like to discuss how the U.S. blew up Nord Stream, I'd be happy to talk about that.
Dropping bombs left and right. He is dropping bombs left and right. Ladies and gentlemen, we got to bring in the music for this one. Woo! Nord Stream. Pipeline. And we're taking it back. I had to drop the beat for that one, you guys. I had to drop it.
On the Middle East, by the way, the U.S. completely handed over foreign policy to Netanyahu 30 years ago. The Israel lobby dominates American politics. Just have no doubt about it. I could explain for hours how it works. It's very dangerous. I'm hoping that Trump will not destroy his administration and worse, the Palestinian people because of Netanyahu, who I regard as a war criminal, properly indicted by the ICC, and that needs to be told no more, that there will be a state of Palestine on the borders of the 4th of June, 1967, according to international law, as the only way for peace. It's the only way for Europe to have peace on your borders with the Middle East, is the two-state solution. There is only one obstacle to it, by the way, and that is the veto of the United States in the UN Security Council. So if you want to have some influence, tell the United States, drop the veto. You are together with 180 countries in the world. The only ones that oppose a Palestinian state are the United States, Israel, Micronesia, Nauru, Palau, Papua New Guinea, Mr. Malay, and Paraguay.
This is a good point. Lana said that guy watching him, though. I know. Look at how he's looking at him. He's just like he's right up in, It's just interesting the way that he is looking at Jeffrey Sachs as though I cannot fathom. It's just like, great Scott, I cannot fathom what he is saying. The words is coming out of his mouth. This is funny.
So this is a place where Europe could have a big influence. Europe has gone silent about the JCPOA and Iran. Netanyahu's greatest dream in life is a war between the United States and Iran. He's not given up, and it's not impossible that that would come also. And that's because the U.S. in this regard does not have an independent foreign policy. It is run by Israel. It's tragic. It's amazing, by the way. And it could end. Trump may say that he wants foreign policy back. Maybe. I'm hoping that it's the case. Finally, let me just say with respect to China, China is not an enemy. China is just a success story. That's why it is viewed by the United States.
Throw it up one more time. We got to drop the beat. It's not an enemy. It's in the street. Hey. Yes, for me. Yes, for me. Shake hands. That's what I'm talking about. He went over there to Europe and told them and gave them the business. That's what he did. He went over there and gave them the business.
It's an enemy because China is a bigger economy than the United States. Russia is not going to invade Europe. This is the fundamental point. It may get up to the Dnieper River. It's not going to invade Europe. But there are real issues. The main issue for Russia was the United States, because Russia, as a major power and the largest nuclear power in the world, was profoundly concerned about U.S. unipolarity from the beginning. Now that this is seemingly, possibly ending, Europe has to open negotiations directly with Russia as well.
Yep.
Because the United States will quickly lose interest, and you're going to be living with Russia for the next thousands of years.
I'll stop it there. Please go watch the full address for the sake of time. I do have one more thing here, but for the sake of time, I'll stop it there. Please watch the full interview. But That was awesome of Jeffrey Sachs to do that, to go over there to Europe and say, listen, let me tell you what is really going on and what I think you guys need to do. I think he has a point when he says that, like, you guys have got, he's basically telling them they got to step up, that they can't continue to be puppets of the United States government. They really got to step up and say, you know what? We don't want World War III either. You're going to have to do it, because as you keep going along with the U.S. government, you're going to be heading right down the toilet. And this is what needs to be done. Protect Jeffrey. Roger Meadows says, well, it's been nice knowing you, Jeff. No, but protect Jeffrey Sachs. You know, obviously, again, he is taking a risk by doing that, but he went over there and he said what needed to be said. So in the theme of two things can be true at the same time, we've discussed this multiple times on this show. Yes, it can be true that Russia invaded Ukraine, but it can also be true that Russia was provoked. He just went through all the things that happened prior to that about Russia being provoked. The U.S. government, NATO was not supposed to expand further to Russia after the fall of the Berlin Wall. So we have to be real here. And then also, Europe is going to have to stand up and push back. They really are. Like, you guys have got to stop just sitting back saying, well, we're all a part of NATO. Bump NATO, man. Bump NATO. Don't know NATO. And I'm not trying to know NATO, okay? NATO should now be that friend that you kick out that's been mooching off of you. The friend who is there and doesn't want to work, don't want to do anything, and wants you to just take care of them. NATO is that friend, and it's time for you to kick them out. That's just how I see it. These countries are going to have to grow a spine, and they're going to have to stand up. And he brought up a really good point. He talked about, like, them actually having some type of trade with China. That's an interesting point for him to bring up. Why don't they have that? Because they're in that relationship with the U.S., because they're friends with the U.S. government. Hopefully, we can see a change here. Hopefully. If the war in Ukraine, and listen to this, guys, and for the newbies, gotta say this because people like to take things out of context. I did not vote for Trump. I did not vote for Kamala. I voted for Jill Stein. But I will say this. If Donald Trump ends this war in Ukraine, do you guys realize he could probably get a Nobel Peace Prize? Because they could say, well, that stopped us from heading towards World War III. And also, it shows you that Kamala and Biden could have done the same thing. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.